Hello everyone, Sam here, and today's video is about all you need to know on detailed design drawings in Revit. So as you can see, we've already come up with a detailing on a wall parapet design. So to show you how to exactly come up with the same detail, we have to actually follow a few steps. Number one step in this process is to always model up as much as 3D component that you can. Now in this specific project that we are working on, or I would say on this specific detail that we're working with, it's all about the wall composition. So we need to make sure to develop the wall composition as detailed as we can. Now I'm going to click on the wall to show you the wall composition that we need for this specific detail. So I'm going to click there and scroll down among all the wall components that we have till I can find this stacked wall. So this stacked wall is the wall that we actually created all the perimeter walls in this project. This stacked wall itself is composed of two main wall composition, which is exterior parapet and also exterior interior general. Now the main wall composition that we're going to need in this specific detail of our wall parapet is the exterior parapet. So I'm going to click there and go on the edit type and click on the edit. So here you can see the exact setup of this specific wall composition. The main points are the function, materials, and the thicknesses. Now, if you don't know how to set up a wall composition in an actual construction project or developing a stacked wall, I would strongly suggest you to go through these videos that you can find the link in the description. These videos fully review all the points that you need to know to set up a wall composition or a stacked wall. Now, let me show you some important points that we need to have an eye on while we're developing this detail. So first, make sure to have the same function and thickness setup that I have here, and then it's time to work on the material column. So if I click here, I can show you an example of this wall composition that I've made. So as you can see here, you can either type the name of the material that you wish to work with or create your own material here, right? As the create new material. So what I've done here is I've created my own material with this name that you can find it under the identity column, right? It is very important to have the same name here on the description part, which we're gonna need it later for the tag purposes. Then another important point that you have to make sure to set that up properly is on the graphic part. Always check that box, and then since in this specific detail that we're going to work with is going to get cut by a section, then it is really important to set up your cut pattern. So here's the pattern that we need. Since it's a concrete wall, I've already chosen that one, and also let's say in color that I've already assigned. So once we are good with the pattern and the color for the cut pattern, and also the same, I would say, name on the description part, we're good to go for this material. So gonna click on OK. And then last but not the least is to set up the parapet cap on this parapet wall. So the easiest way that you can get there is to always put that on as a section. So then you can find all these tools getting available. Then click on sweeps, go there, and then click here on the drop down so then you can find the M parapet cap precast. Now you might not find this profile initially there, so you have to click on the load profile and make sure to load that profile. So to find there, you have to click on the drop down, go on the path that you have already accumulated all the components that you have in Revit, go on US metric, and then scroll down till you find the profile. I'm going to go with the profile and then wall. Here, as you can see, we do have the M parapet cap precast, but the one that I have here is not actually the one that I'm going to need in this detail. So what I have to do is to modify this parapet cap so then I can use it in this specific detail. So how I can be able to do that, I have to open up that component in the Revit. So first click on cancel, and then make sure to click on OK to not lose the wall composition that we have already come up with. Another OK, and then go with this folder that you can see here. So here's the default address that you can find the M parapet cap precast. So as you can see on drive C, program data, which is a hidden file, and then Autodesk Revit, the version that you're using, libraries, US metric, profile, and wall. Then you can see the M Parapet cap precast that we want to use in this detail. However, the one that is already there is the default one. So I want to put it there and create my own version. So I'm going to duplicate this and put it here, and then rename it as an modified one. Then double click on it so you can open up that in Revit. Here, as you can see, the profile is not what we want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select these two lines and get rid of them. Go on the create and click on the line and make sure to finish up your section as in rectangle, as exactly this is what we need in this specific detail. Then gonna make sure to save this. So click on save, and then you can either go with loading to project and close or loading to project. Since we're done with this component, so I'm going to click on loading to project and close. Click on OK. So here now we have this component getting loaded into our project. Now it's time to bring that up on our wall. So what I have to do is click on wall. Again, make sure to be on the exterior parapet. Go on the edit type. Make sure to put it as a section. Go on edit here. In here, as you can see, we need to add the profile that we're going to need for our parapet cap. So going to click on add, then going to click on the drop down of the profile, scroll down till I find the version that we have already created up with, the M Parapet cap precast modified, but the one that we're going to go with is the 600 millimeter wide. So going to click there. And then since specifically we're working on this detail, I have to put on an offset of 0.10 if you're working with an meter unit. So 0.10 done there. Also gonna put this as top. Then the last setup that we need to do to finish that part is the material part. So gonna click there, and then create my own material that I'm gonna need for the concrete parapet cap. So what I'm gonna do, since it's most likely the same material as I'm already having here, gonna right click here, duplicate, and put on a name for it. For example, M underline concrete parapet cap. And then gonna go on the identity part, make sure to have the same name here. So then at the time of tagging everything, we should be fine. Also, I'm gonna go on the appearance and make sure that another color is set up there, which I'm already fine with this one. Gonna go on the graphic part, make sure to check that box. Also, I'm having a pattern with another color assigned here. So you're all good in terms of this specific material. Gonna click on OK. The material is set up. It's already put on top. The offset is 0.10. The profile is already chosen. So you're all good to go. Gonna click on OK. And as you can see, easily that parapet cap is now set up on top of my wall. So gonna click on OK. And here I'm all done with the first process, which was to model up as much as 3D component that I need. So once that is done, then it's time to create a section and get in there so that I can develop the remaining part of the detail. So gonna click on section and create a section somewhere here. So gonna do the first click here and the second one there. Also want to make sure that the section is fully limited to the part of the wall that I'm working with. So for example, something like that. And then to go through this view, what I have to do is double click on this symbol of the section. So double click there and you can find yourself in that section view. The very first thing that you need to do is to make sure that you are on the fine. So make sure to put on the detail of the project on fine and also the visual style on consistent colors. Then since I'm supposed to develop a detail for this wall parapet, what I have to do is do an call out for that part. So gonna go to the view tab top there, click on the call out and do a nice smooth call out here like that. Once that is done, then double click on the symbol and you can find yourself here with that parapet wall detailing. Gonna put the detail again on fine. Also want to make sure that the visual style and consistent colors, and the scale that I'm gonna work with is supposed to be 1/5. Now that we're done with the first step, it's time to go for the second step, which is to load in as much as detail item or component that I'm gonna need in this specific detail. These details are usually 2D, meaning that they're not existing in the 3D environment. So in order to load in, what I have to do is to go through the Annotate tab. Then up there, you can find an icon called Component. When I click there, I can see Detail Component. So you click there, and then you start to load in the list of all these detail components that you can see here on my screen. So among them, as you can see, we need to load in a break line, the cavity blocks, the L angle, the aluminum flashing, the screws, and so much more. So as an example, I'm going to load in a couple of these detail components into our project. So what I have to do is to go through this component, click on the detail component, then click on the load family, and there I have to get to the address that all these detail items are accumulating. So I'm going to click on US metric. Again, here's the address that you can find the components. Then there, this time, instead of going for profiles or any other category, I'm going to stick with detail items. So I'm going to click on detail items, and then depending on the type of the component that you wish to load in, you have to go through these folders. So for example, our first component that I'm going to load in is going to be a break line. So break line is usually included in the first folder, which is Division 1 General. So going to click there, and as you can see, M break line is already existing there. So going to click on it, then click on Open, and as you can see, M break line is already loaded into this project. Now, the good point is that whatever sort of detail item that you actually load into your project, all going to be saved under the component or families folder here. So if you go through your project browser and you open up that drop down under the families, you can find detail items, also all other components that you have already loaded into your project. And for example, since our case are detail items, I can have access to all of them super easily that way. So since I already loaded the M break line, I'm gonna put the M break line where like I'm supposed to. So for example, like I have to put on the M break line here. Also, what you can do is you can start rotating that component by pressing space on your keyboard. So for example, I'm gonna press space till I find like the actual appropriate rotation, and then place that M break line on my project. Then I have to extend these arrows to make sure that the detail that I'm gonna end up with is actually what I'm looking for. So as you can see, easily I can come up with this break line, which is doing the job for me. Now that the break line happened, it's time to get started with the cavity blocks. First of all, what I have to do is to load in the detail item of that cavity block into my project. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to again go through that component up there. Just make sure that you are under the Annotate tab. Go again with detail component, go with the load family, and then this time again, once I'm in the detail item, since I want to load in the cavity blocks, I have to go with the Division 4, which is the masonry. So gonna click there, and among the components that I have in here, the one that I have to go with is the second from the last. So gonna click there, and then you can start navigating among all these views that we have. So depending on whether you want to work with the top view, side view, or section view, you can choose different sort of detail items. The one that we're going to need is the glazed one. So now that we loaded in the cavity block that we were looking for, if yet you wouldn't be able to see your detail component, then go again on the project browser on the detail item. There you can find M Glazed Face CMU section. Click on the drop down, and among the sizes, choose the one that matches your project. So the one that right now we're going to go with is the 200 times 200 times 400 millimeter. So click on it and then drag it into your project. Now, it's not an appropriate and efficient process to start doing this manually, since this is a repetitive component. So what I want to do is this time, instead of using the detail component, I'm going to use the repeating detail component. So I'm going to go to that component and then click on repeating detail component. Then you can click on the edit type, duplicate your component if you still having like more than one detail, repeating detail component. And there you can click on the drop down and choose the appropriate size that you want to go with. So that is the one that I want to go with. The layout is on fixed distance, and the spacing I'm going to choose is 200 millimeter, or it's 20 centimeter. So I'm going to click on OK. Bring your point viewer somewhere around the corner of that layer that you want to place the cavity blocks, and then start to place as much as cavity blocks that you need into your project. Once that is done, then in order to align that detail component, so then like it can matches your detail, I have to go to the Modify tab, click on Align, click on the lower part of the parapet cap, and then the second one should be on the top of the cavity block. Click there, and as you can see, that part is solved. However, yet the break line is not cutting that cavity block off. So what I have to do is to select that part, select the cavity blocks, and then click on Send to Back. Set it there, and as you can see, the cavity blocks are perfectly getting matched with what we supposed to build in terms of the detail. Then what I do is to select the cavity blocks and make sure that in terms of the left and right is also perfectly getting placed into that layer of the wall. So far we are all on the track to build up this detail, and we're done with the cavity blocks and the break line. Now we can continue adding much more detail component to fully develop our detail. Number 2 item that we're going to work on it will be the aluminum flashing. So in order to load that up into the project, you can see the list of the components that we have. Again, from that path, you can find the M copying section. So refer to the list that you can see here, and there you can find the aluminum flashing or the M copying section. Make sure to load that into project, then go all the way to the project browser, families, detail item, M copying section. Click there, and down there you can find the biggest size that we have actually for that aluminum flashing. Click there and drag that into the project. However, we need to matches the size that right now we need to use in this detail. So gonna click on the edit type, and then click on the duplicate. Make sure to put it as the size that you wish to have. 150 times 150 millimeters. Then gonna click on OK and start to reflect the same values on my dimensions. Click on OK, and now you will be able to place your aluminum flash. So now what I can do is select that and make sure that it's perfectly getting placed where it's supposed to be, as you can see. Now that we are done with the M copying flashing or the aluminum flashing, we will be able to move on and start to add on the screws that we need to have it into that detail. So again, from the list, make sure to this time add on the M black screw side. Then click there, and around the sizes that we have, I would guess that M10 will be perfectly working for us. So click on M10, drag that into your project and place it where it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna place it one there, and the second one, by hitting on space, you will be able to change the orientation. Then you can make sure that it's exactly on the same line axis, and then place it in your detail. So as you can see, we're perfectly done with all the detail items that we had to put into that detail. So we're done with the modeling the 3D items, the 3D components, which was the step number 1. Then step number 2 was to loading and placing all the detail items. Next in that process is to add on more tools on the annotation tab. So I'm going to go on the annotate tab, going to go with insulation, and then according to the thickness of that layer that we want to place the insulation, we can always change the thickness. So here I'm going to start from that top and place the insulation layer all the way to down, as you can see. And then if you still think that the placement is not properly set up, you can always select that and make sure to change that left or right, as you can see. Also, to make sure that it's getting cut off with that end break line, again, we can use the send to back. So now that we're done with the first layer of the insulation, in order to add on much more layer of the insulation, instead of the insulation button, I can go with a region which we call it as a field region. So gonna click there and start to define different layers of the insulation. For example, here, what I'm gonna do is to define a boundary that it's supposed to fill up the space left between the first insulation and the cavity block. So I'm gonna use the rectangle tool and start to define a boundary here. Like that. And also make sure to extend the top line all the way to the middle of the cavity block. And then using line to fill up the boundary. Like that, and then at the end I'm going to use the trim extend button, make sure to trim that part, and then once we're done we have to click on the edit type, make sure to duplicate that field region that you just defined and assign the proper color that you wish to have, then select on OK and another finish, so you're done with that field region. However, you might have some difficulties yet with that break line as what we have here. So what you can do is to try to use the bring to front or bring forward button, so then you can arrange them more appropriately. So now I'm going to select the end break line, go there and start to put it as bring forward. But as you can see, yet is not getting placed. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to select the field region that I just did, bring to front, and then again select the break line and also put it as bring to front too. So now this way, as you can see, the detail is perfectly set up so far. Next is to add on a drip on the concrete cap that we have here. So in order to do that, what I can do is to again use the region, but this time I'm gonna go with the masking region. So I'll click on the masking region and I will select the circle here, and then according to the radius of that drip that we have, we can create a circle here like that. And then once that is done, make sure to select that circle, go up there, open up the drop down and make sure to put it as the invisible line. That is done, and then select on finish, and as you can see, the drip is getting happen here. Then in order to have the same on the other side of the cap, I'll select that drip and then we'll use the mirror option. You can use the mirror option and draw an axis here like what I'm doing, so then you can have the same drip on the other side of the cap. Now it's time to add some lines into our detail. So in order to do that, I'm gonna go all the way up through the annotate tab, and then we have an icon here called detail line. Click there, and among all the line style that we have, I'm gonna go with the hidden one. Click there and start to draw the lines the way you wish to have in your project. So I'm gonna have one line there, and the other one should be here. So easily you can draw your lines. Also, sometimes the style that you want to have your line with is not already defined in Revit. So the way how you can add on as much as line style that you wish is to go on the Manage tab, Additional Setting, and there you can find line styles. So here you can define as much as different line styles that you wish, with different colors, different patterns, and also with different thicknesses. In Revit, overall, we're having thicknesses from 1 to 16, meaning that number 1 is the thinnest line that you can draw in Revit, and number 16 is the thickest line that you can define there. So according to the thickness, color, and the pattern that you wish, you will be able to define or add on a new line. So now we're done with the lines, and here what I want to do next is to add on some dimensions. So in order to add on some dimensions to my detail, I can go again on the Annotate tab, and there I have a line dimension. I'm gonna click there, and then also want to make sure to put this on the wall faces and start to add on. Also with pressing tab, you will be able to choose different sort of layers. So number 1 is going to be here. Then again, by pressing tab, I will be able to choose different layer. The second one, I want to be here. The third one, like that. And the last one should be like this. So as you can see, we will be able to add on as much as dimensions that we wish to have in this project. Once we're done with the dimensions, then it's time to move on to taggings. Overall, we have 2 or 3 different types of taggings. I would say first tag by material and the other one tags by category. Also, on top of those, what we can do is to always add as much as information that we wish with the help of text. So first, I'm going to start with material tag. So I'm going to click on material tag. And since we've already set up every wall composition with a description, so then once here we bring on the material tag, we can also see the tag perfectly working. So I'll bring my point viewer on each and every single layer of this wall and place the tags like this. Also, since we also define the material for our parapet cap, we can also define a material tag for it too. Once we are done with all the materials that we've already set up, then it's time to move on to tag by category. However, in order to start using the tag by category, first we need to set up a proper component to use that for the detail items. So in order to set that up, first I'm gonna go on File, to New, and then this time I'm gonna go with Family. There, among all the templates that we have for different sort of components or family objects, I'm gonna get stick with metric tag. So I'm gonna go with annotation there, and there I'll start searching till I find the metric tag. Here we are with metric generic tag. Select that and click on open. Once we're there, first I'm gonna select on the category of this tag and then make sure to put that as a detail item. So here, as you can see, we can have the detail item tags. Click on OK, and then we can get rid of this message. Next, we're gonna go to the create, and then up there you can find label. Select the label and click here. Then among these parameters that we have, we need to get stick with one single parameter that is pretty common between all the detail items. Among them, I could say the comments could perfectly working for us. So I'm gonna select comments and make sure to add it there. Then I'm gonna check that box which is wrapped between parameters only. Once that is done, you can click on OK and we're perfectly good to go. Just before loading that into the project, we have to save our family item that we just made. So I'm gonna save it there and make sure to put on an appropriate name so I can recall that into my project. So I'm gonna put it as detail item tag. And then click on save. And now you're all good to go with loading to project and close. Now make sure to get into the detail that we were working with. Again, I'm gonna go with annotate, tag by category. This time I'm gonna go with this tag there. And also you have to make sure that the tag that we just made is already loaded up here and it's exactly next to the item that we're working with, which is detail item tags. So we can see that our detail tag is perfectly working here. So gonna click on OK. And then here, according to the item that we wish to work with, we have to fill up the comment part. So for example, I'm gonna first go with that screw. So as you can see, that is M like screw side M10. So what I can do, I can just simply start to write down the name that I wish to be appeared on tag here. So gonna click on screw M10. Once that is done, I get back again with the tag, unannotate, tag by category, and then make sure to put that as a free end. And as you can see, the screw M10 can perfectly get in there. You can also do the same thing with the other tag here. And next is to exactly do the same thing with the aluminum flashing that we have. So I'm gonna select that and put on the same comment that I wish to have. Once we are done with the comment part, then we will be able to add on exactly the same thing to our aluminum flashing. As you can see here. Also, you would be able to extend your view if you wish to add that more. Now that we are done with the tags, if you still wish to add on much more information to your detail, you can still do so with the help of text. So I'm gonna click on text, and then, for example, what I wanna do, I wanna mention that this part is the exterior side of the project and this part is the interior. So I'm gonna use the text to write that down. I'm gonna click on here, as you can see, and then write down exterior, like that. Also, as you can see, this has its own arrow, which I wish to get eliminated. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use the remove last leader. Select that, and as you can see, we're having the text only part. Also, with the help of the holding control, I'm gonna do an duplication of the same text there. Double click on it so I can modify the text and write the interior. Also, if you wish to modify the size of the text, you can select that text, go on the edit type, and there you can find the text size. For example, right now is 4. I can put it, for example, as 8, and then click on OK. So that way you can add on as much as information that you wish. For example, another type of the information that I just wish to add to that detail, I would say this type of the insulation that we have. So I'm gonna again select on text, click there, and then start to write down the type of the insulation that we have used here, as you can see. So here, to make sure that the text gonna get appeared here, I just need to extend my frame here. So gonna extend my frame a bit more, and then as you can see, the text is getting appeared. Gonna select that text, go on edit type, first duplicate to make sure that the other texts are not getting affected, and then reduce the sizes. For example, this one I'm gonna go with 5. As you can see, then if you wish to get back to the let's say previous frame that you had, you can use those snaps there, as you can see. Again, I wish to add another text into my detail, so I'm gonna select text, click there, and bring it here. Gonna place it there and start to write down something about the drip that we have here. Once that is done, you would be able to select that text, go on the edit, or make sure to choose the proper size that you just created. For example, that one. So as you can see, this is a perfect example of detailing in Autodesk Revit. So as you can see, we can add on as much as detail that we wish to have, or add on as much as information that it might be needed into the project. So I hope you guys find this video useful, and please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done it yet, as I'm always constantly updating the contents to make sure that you guys are getting to learn new stuff and tricks. Thank you.